Hello, welcome everybody, those who are present at the moment. Greetings from Helsinki and from Barcelona. It's 6 o'clock in the evening here in Helsinki and it's about to get dark outside. And the sun is set already, arguably. But it's maybe not so in other places where you are, or you might be in the towards the end of your night. But greetings from Pixelake Helsinki's program 2020, which has the theme called Burn. And this event that we have today is called Making Festivals, and it's a sort of hybrid development on from something that we'd originally planned to make at this time already about a year ago, with the theme called Co-op Camp. And Co-op Camp has actually been a series of events that have happened in the past in Pixelake here in Finland, which has tried to bring together for a sort of long weekend, informal collaboration and formal cooperativism. And we last made one of these events in 2013, so it's been a while ago. We had hoped that this event might be one of those type of events, an unconference event, but actually it is transformed from an unconference event into something which we just make now a presentation and question and answer. So it has the keynote part, but not the unconference part. My name is Andrew Griff-Patterson. I've been involved with Pixelake for many years, and at the moment I have the role of hosting this event, but I am a co-director for next year's festival in 2021. And I was interested to make this Making Festivals theme so that we gather voices together of different actors, different experts, collaborators and peers on how you make festivals these days. And of course, the context of the global pandemic of coronavirus has changed many of our thoughts about what might be a festival in these times. And when I thought about who could be a good person to share their thoughts and experiences on this matter, I thought that Antònia Folguera, our guest today, would be a very good person to share thoughts and hopefully to raise discussion about what would be a good way to make a festival, and especially to consider a hybrid form of event, which takes into account streaming as practices, and also, as we're planning our festival for next year, one which has a lot of audio content. So to introduce Antònia, she's a curator, communicator based in Barcelona, Spain, in Catalonia, and she creates content for festivals which include a good range of scale and sizes. She's involved with Sonar Plus D program, which is the creative technologies conference surrounding Sonar Festival. She's involved with Euphonic Festival, which is smaller scale, but also in Catalonia. Stroop Festival in Eindhoven, Netherlands, and also Kerosene, which is in Tenerife in Spain. She's also a part of XRCB, Barcelona Community Radio Network, and is involved very much in the community radio scene there. And that scene has been involved in open source, free tools, infrastructure for community radio. She's also a jury and tutor on the Barcelona Producció grants for emerging artists since last year. So we have a range of curatorial experiences there. She's also a DJ and host for a radio show called Lummerland on dublab.es. And she's also DJing, as I mentioned, but in a variety of different scenes also. So thanks so much for your hybrid form experiences and thoughts. We have prepared a pre-recorded video presentation, which we'll press play in a moment, thanks to Steve Maher in Pixelake office. And then we'll return afterwards, about 35 minutes later, for some questions. Hopefully the recorded presentation sparks those for us, and we'll come back to you in a moment. But first, I give you a quick chance, Antònia, to say hello, and then we'll move to the video.
Yeah, just Very quick chance. So, hello, it is a pleasure to be here participating and in some way adding just a tiny bit of my experience in making festivals. And I don't know, and also learn a lot from Pixelake Festival.
It's part of dialogue, so thanks so much. We will come back to this live part in 35 minutes. See you soon. Oh, fantastic. See if I can do that. That will be in meeting settings, I guess. I share not my screen, but share... Whose would that be? I'm not sharing my screen, Steve, because I am on the phone, remember? Ah. Well, let's see if I can find that. Apologies to those who are watching us fumble around instead. In my mobile interface version of this, I don't have that capacity. I'm not logged in as myself, you see? I'm not logged in as Pixelake. Oh, sorry, Steve. I can't do it from my phone. Super. But we are the non-corporal body. Don't worry about it. We're all ourselves here. We are not logged in as the entity, or an institution, or association. We are just ourselves. Let's not worry too much.
Hello and welcome to my living room. Welcome to my couch, from where today I'm going to give this talk about making festivals. My name is Antònia Folguera and I make festivals. At this moment, I make 4 of them. So I think I know one thing or two about how they are done, even though there are many, many things that remain a mystery to me. Let me introduce myself and also introduce the festivals that I work in or that I collaborate with, because they have different scales, they work around different concepts, they have kind of a different kind of program, they happen in different venues, and this is a way to give you some ideas about how to make festivals. But we are also going to talk about other things that I find inspiring, especially when you are trying to envision how your festival is going to be and how you're going to make it. And especially if you are going to make it in a collaborative or cooperative way, that you are not going to make it on your own, but you are going to work with others, which is the best way to put festivals forward. So, all these festivals I'm going to talk about are very different among them, but they have some things in common, is that they are festivals that are music festivals, or that they have a relevant or big music program, and that they are new media arts and digital arts and culture festivals, which is a bit my area of expertise. And you might wonder, what is Antònia doing at all these festivals? I curate the program, or I curate part of the program along the curatorial teams, and normally sometimes I curate some music, and I curate some shows, especially the ones that have like a strong visual scenographic component. But most of the time what I do is curating people. I curate the people that will talk and participate in panels, lectures, workshops, and other kinds of activities that are not specifically related to music, but sometimes they are about music and about arts and about things. So this is more or less what I do. And the festival that employs me most of the time throughout the year is Sonar Plus D, which is Sonar Festival's Creative Technologies Conference, which happens once a year, normally mid-June in Barcelona. Of course, Sonar, as every other festival in the world in 2020, this year has had to, in a way, reinvent itself, and as many other festivals, it has gone for something that we are also going to talk about in this talk, which is hybrid. Hybrid, if you're making festivals and events, is basically the buzzword of the moment. So we are going to talk about a little bit how to achieve hybrid, or different examples of what hybrid can be, but also we are going to see why many times, or most times, hybrid goes wrong. So, but now, before we go into that, I'm going to tell you a bit what hybrid was for Sonar Plus D this year. The program was basically protagonized by the lectures and the panels, and then between these lectures and the panels there were some content capsules that were musical or performative. And also, when you think about hybrid, you think about something that can work as well in real life and online, physical and virtual, on the internet, and here on the space, on the physical space. I never know how to differentiate both things, because I think then that online and offline is life, and everything is the same. But that would be, a topic for another day. So when we think about hybrid, we think this something that can work both virtually and physically. But the important thing, or the interesting thing, and the exciting thing about hybrid is not finding the magic spot in which what you transmit online and what you do in a physical space work equally well and merges magically together. Actually, that doesn't happen quite often. I think that the interesting and exciting thing about hybrid is finding a space when the physical and the virtual, the online and the offline, merge together. That between the borders there is a space where you can do something that it's not boiler room, let's say, and it's not a music festival as we know it in the physical space. It's something else. Excuses. And what is this something else? Actually, this something else, this hybrid, or the making festivals, is not an exact science. And what I'm going to show you are just a few experiences and different ideas that might give you an idea and a sense or some inspiration of what hybrid is. First of all, we are going to go to a picture of Sonar Plus D this year, so you will see what was in a small chunk of what was hybrid for Sonar Plus D this year. And we are going to see this picture. You see this lady over here is yours truly. And yours truly is looking at a screen where there is this guy, which is musician Max Cooper. And it seems that I'm talking to a screen. And what we tried to do here is to merge these two natures, like the digital nature and the physical nature. So when you want to, like, it's very easy. We all do it. We are doing it right now. If you want to stream a panel or a talk or interview someone remotely, is fairly easy. Like most venues for music or for lectures or for whatever have some basic equipment which contains a projector and a screen that you can use. But I think that this formula, which works and it's perfectly correct, puts the person that's on the physical space and the one that's connected, like, in different levels, in a different dimension. And for this Sonar Plus D experience, what we decided it was to put the people who were connected remotely on the stage, like physically. And that was through these screen devices. Here there's only one, but we used up to 4 screens with remote participants that were there simultaneously at the same time. This kind of formula has lots of technical challenges in order to everything to work well and be synchronized and everything, but it works really well. And this, you as an attendee, you could go to the CCCB, which is the Center for Contemporary Culture, and attend there physically, like the festival, or you could connect and see it online in streaming as if it was a TV show. Like the main event for this year, it was the lectures and the panels, and then between the lectures and the panels, so we had time to change and also to clean and sanitize the venue because of COVID reasons. What people home would see, because the streaming wasn't non-stop, was different music performances that were recorded in different places. There were artists from all over the world that made different proposals that most of the times weren't a regular concert or a regular show. And that's what I'm going to tell you about when hybrid goes wrong. Is because if you ask any music lover that loves to go to concerts or any festival organizer, they will tell you that if you try to take the live experience and replicate it to be streamed online, that you lose all the spirit and all the magic, and it's not the same. And yes, it's not the same. That's why I also tell you that the interesting thing is to find this space that makes hybrid make sense. It's not a live experience as we know it, that hopefully soon we will be able to live these live experiences, and it's not the online DJ set or concert or televised concert that we know, which is also perfectly fine. It's finding somewhere in the middle where the audience also has a role and has a space and has participation, not only with what's happening, but also among them. And there can be some kind of fluidity and liquidity among all the actors, but we are going to see this very, very soon. More things. I work at another festival called Euphonic. It's way smaller than Sonar Plus D. It happens in the zone of Ebro Delta, which is in southern Catalonia, Spain. And it's another kind of festival. Like Sonar normally happens in a big venue, and this venue is transformed. Like the spaces are transformed in order for the festival to happen. And an atmosphere is created. So the festival has a unique character, but everything is kind of built for the days that the festival takes place. Euphonic is smaller and has another nature. It's like very decentralized. It happens in this area in many different places, and most of these places are not places that are intended for music. They might be like a natural space with a very specific landscape. It might be an old church. It might be, the old market. It might be a square in the middle of the street, but also venues that are meant for music. And then the challenge is to find the perfect content for each venue, and also the perfect time for each venue, because there are things that make sense by night, there are things that make sense by day, there are things that make sense in the middle of the nature, things that make sense in the city. So Euphonic is like very decentralized, happens in many different places, you sometimes in very remote places, and the program is like a very diverse music program. It has installations and other, let's say, art, sound, visual interventions across the area. And it also has an area called Euphonic Pro. That is the place that I work in. I help curate this pro area. That's where like the panels and the lectures and also the networking activities happen. Because as you may have seen at this point, what I do is to curate people, basically, for this type of things. I curate artists and cultural agents and other types of people from the arts and culture ecosystem, and try to put them together so they can exchange knowledge, they can share, etc. Euphonic Pro is very small. There might be around from 30 to 50 people in the audience. The audience are most of them professionals in the arts and culture and music sector. And what we try to do, besides offering a program that's inspiring, that offers a value and knowledge, we try to put together these different agents from the music ecosystem, artists with programmers or curators, or maybe people from institutions that might help, maybe fund projects, etc. And for us, being a small festival, it's like very, very easy to get people together and make them network among them. That's something that's a bit more difficult but not impossible, in a very big festival. It might be more difficult to get to know the people and that kind of things, but there everything is like very, very small and contained. So there is high quality network. And one of the angles that we have specialized ourselves on is into put together or gather the professionals and the artists and the people who work with digital performative arts. And that's also like a very hybrid environment where there is like visual arts and music and theater and strange things that sometimes are very, very difficult to describe. I'm going to show you a couple of pictures of Euphonic Pro this year. Like, this is yours truly moderating a talk with some artists. And this is how hybrid looked for us. Maybe it looks like more classic hybrid, like we have like one of these venues that are normally used for talks and panels and presentations and other activities. And we simply set up a screen and a few cameras so people who were at home could enjoy the activities. And also for Euphonic, when we were thinking about hybrid, it was just not having remote participants and having a program that's open for the audience present in the space and present on the internet, but also we organize lots of activities that happen exclusively online that helped artists, curators, and programmers network and present each other's their work. So future collaborations maybe they can arise. And another festival that I'm starting to collaborate with is this one that you see in the picture. It happens in the Canary Islands in Tenerife. The festival is called Kerosene, which means kerosene. And the festival happens in a tank that used to be a kerosene, a fuel tank. And now it's a venue that used to be an art center, and now is this very special venue when this festival takes place. This is not a new media arts, even though there is a highly visual component. It's not a new media arts festival, it's a music festival. It's very diverse. You can find anything from free jazz to all kinds of experimental music, rock, pop, ambient, all types of music basically. And what you can see, you see this massive screen, like this space is round, it's like a circle, and you see this massive screen behind is made of plastic containers that are put one on top of the other. So it's made with recycled material, and as you can see, like the results are completely stunning. And as I'm talking to you, I am, let's say, putting together my couple of proposals for Kerosene this year, which will take place between November and December. And the fourth festival that I'm also starting to collaborate now is a festival called Stripe, which takes place in Eindhoven, the Netherlands, in April. And it's a new media arts festival. And as I'm speaking to you, I am preparing my proposals to present to the curatorial team tomorrow. So we'll see what happens. So you see more or less how at least these two festivals that I have more knowledge. I've been working at Sonar and at Euphonic for a few years now, so I know how they work. So I can tell you, what's important or these things. The other two festivals, I know them as an audience, not yet as an insider. So maybe next time I can tell you about these experiences. But I've been able to show you at least, or to share with you how they are. And now I'm going to share you an experience that happened through quarantine. And I think that you can call it perfectly a festival. It was an event that took place specifically online. It was kind of a private event, like it wasn't publicized except for in very limited circles. And this festival, it worked in a very particular way, is that it happened in Zoom, just as this conversation, and the barrier between the audience and the performers or participants wasn't clear. Like everyone was part of the same thing, and maybe there was someone at home playing some visuals, and someone in another home playing live music, while Alba G. Corral, who was the organizer, she's a visual artist, and she was the organizer of this initiative, she was at her home mixing everything together, mixing the music with the visuals, with the images of the people that were on the audience, and she was also maybe drawing and making things. So it kind of made like a very magical space. and also a very magic way to connect people's homes and different spaces together. I'm going to show you like only a minute of it because, as I said, it was like a very private thing, but I was like very, very impressed and I enjoyed it a lot. So I can't help but sharing you a little bit so you can understand what I mean. Also, this festival, it wasn't like a free festival, like some friends getting together while someone is playing and another one is making visuals. Like it worked with, I don't know the name in English, like we have a Spanish word for that. And it's basically when it was basically a pay what you want event. The audience was very, very small. Maybe there would be like 15 to 20 people, sometimes maybe less, sometimes maybe more. And the audience were given like a PayPal account. So they can, just donate whatever money they wanted. And then this money was split between the people, the artists that participated, like for the organizers and the visual artists, for the musicians, etc., etc. And that's how this very, very small, tiny online event took place and kind of survived during quarantine. And I'm going to show you just a minute, and and you're going to see that everything that happens in this minute, it happened live at this moment. Let's go for it. So what you are seeing here, it was happening strictly live, and the music was by artist Helga Was. The girl that was with her mobile phone walking in the Barcelona streets is new media artist Monica Rikic, and as you could see, Alba G. Corral was playing with Zoom as if it was another creative tool. Like she was, you can see like the Zoom interface, and she was just, playing buttons and doing things, and it was really, really magical. And I think that it contains like the seed of a very, very, very good idea, in which also the role of the audience is like very active and very present. And that happened exclusively online. And I think that you can take lots of inspiration from it. So, more things. I was mentioning from this experience by this event that the artist Alba G. Corral organized. And one, it was this thing of kind of making people conscious that it's important to pay some money to the artist, but also to the organization of the event in order to make it sustainable. We are not used to pay for things online. we have only used for the last maybe 10 years or less to pay for subscriptions for, I don't know, for Spotify or for Netflix or that kind of things. But we are not super used to pay for things on the internet. And if you have to make hybrid festivals or festivals that happen exclusively online, the artists are working, the organizers are working, and if you are in the audience, you are enjoying. So it's okay to pay. And I think that in this experience that I just show you, they would just split between them, among them, whatever they had made. Was it more little or was it more? Because everybody donated what they wanted. But I would also like to show you one experience that was put into, maybe you already know this project. It was put into practice by a festival that happens in Leipzig called Synapse. And there was like a project called Blockchain My Art, which started around this festival. And in this project, what they do is they use blockchain technology in order for all the money that they make for selling beers gets divided, and it goes every piece or every percentage to the different people that are involved in the festival, which is a lot. Even for very small festivals, it's very normal that there are a lot of people involved. Not just the artists, but the technicians, the producers, the security, people in the bar, people at the door, runners, and all kinds of people doing and playing different roles. And I'm going to show you just an image that, wait a minute, an image that it's like very graphic. Basically, in this blockchain project, they put this example, is that if you, I don't know, if you say that a beer is €3, let's say, well, there is a percentage that goes to the supplier of the beer, another percentage for the artist playing that day, for the volunteers, for local association, and towards other sectors such as material, communication, taxes, and everything that you have, and everything and everyone that you have to pay when you organize a festival. So that's just like just to tell you these couple of examples that might work as an inspiration when you are organizing your own festival and you are trying to make it sustainable. I think that the most important thing is to make people conscious of how important it is that they support with money the festival that they are going to enjoy. It doesn't matter if it's a little or if it's a lot, whatever they can. And that there are technologies that can be implemented to make this task easier. So I would say that the first experience of a hybrid event, that's what I was showing you in the video, is a way to engage the audience into, pay some money for what they are going to enjoy. And what I was showing you now from the Blockchain My Art Festival, it was implementing one technology to make this process easier and also make it very transparent. Like suddenly you see all the people and all the teams that are involved in organizing an event. And the last, and to end, it's something that I'm going to talk a bit about the future. It's a project called ANAS, which means tools. I cannot show you because it doesn't exist yet also. I think it's the first time that I give a talk about things that haven't happened yet. It's a project that it contains. It's a project about, let's say, technological sovereignty and about free software and open source tools to make events, to make festivals, to make concerts, and to do it online. For instance, the project is going to consist of an interview between two people from different areas of the cultural sector, like people who are like maybe artists, people who develop tools, people from research, but also from infrastructure, that are going to share good practices in the area of using free tools. And then there is going to be a performance, and in this performance, the audience are going to have the ability to choose what camera they want to use, they want to see, what angle they want to see of the performance. And then there is like a third part in which there is some kind of a how-to video on how you can use the technologies applied in the performance so that you can replicate and organize your own event. And that's all. I hope that was helpful, because half an hour, it's too little to tell a lot of things. But I just wanted to give you these ideas, is that when you make a festival, the venue is king, that choose it well, that you always have to work within the means that you have. If you can make large-scale things, fabulous. If you can make things that are very little, that's perfect. Just think about it and make it with love, and try to be creative. Because not only the artists that play are the creative ones. I think that the producers and the organizers and the people who envision and conceptualize how the festival is going to be are creative too. And also about this hybrid thing, some reflection. What is hybrid? What hybrid can be? Why hybrid goes wrong? And then some inspirations about hybrid things, and then some inspirations about how make things sustainable. That's not, I would say, an exact science, but I hope that at least was helpful. So see you in a bit in the Q&A. Thank you very
much. A few ways into conversation. So the clock ticks down for those who are hanging around, who might be thinking of something to say. And it probably is likely that I will have to start.
Yeah, please do. They will ask when they feel the urge to. We can start talking.
Yes, certainly. But that was just my teasing gap for them to fill it. Antònia, thanks so much for what you gave with us. You made a comment yourself that 30 minutes or so is not so long. And I know that you've been involved in the cultural scenes there in Barcelona and its international interfaces for a long time. And to offer something for us in conversation is really like sample. But I think you did nice to offer some concrete examples and some teasers and little partial views into things, which hopefully spark interest, right? Thank you first for that.
I think that I should practice more with OBS so I can make presentations at home as if I was in a lecture hall playing my PowerPoints, but I don't know.
Here we are practicing anyway, right? We are practicing. We have a hybrid situation at the moment anyway.
Yeah.
Mostly to do with the fact that we are all sitting in different places, right? And this circumstances of making cultural work at a physical distance, but with social sort of presence, is really our issue here, right? And that's why it was, for me, a hopeful wish to get into conversation and to reconnect, because we have reconnected after quite a long time of not being in communication between Helsinki and Barcelona. with awareness that you have long experience of being a presenter and a performer online. Like you have been involved in online TV when we first met, way back in 2007, and you have been involved in online radio streaming as a content producer and also curator, and of course you have been involved in the role of curating and presenting also in festivals which have had the physical and remote.
Actually, for me, it's exactly the same job. Like I started in making radio when I was a teenager, and when selecting like the songs that I wanted to play or the artists that I wanted to interview or the things that I wanted to talk about, inevitably I was curating content. Then I did the same for TV, and it was exactly the same. So for me, it makes no difference if I'm selecting or curating content or topics to talk about and things to show at a radio show, at a TV program, or audio video content, or if it's in a festival where it's or until now it was let's say a live context. When you have the audience in front of you and you need to move the audience physically around the venue. But for me, it's exactly the same. I work exactly the same way. What topics might be interesting, what ideas might be linking with others, what people I can put together so it is interesting, what mix of artists or works of these artists can dialogue between them and might have interest for the audience, and also what stories I can tell that might be engaging for the audience and also for the media. Like, since I've worked like in media for a long time and communication, I cannot help but thinking what might be interesting for the audience now and how am I going to tell the story, or what stories might be relevant for people right now. Yeah. Even though when I create things because I like them, and they are the things that I would like to see myself most of the time. Other times, people might ask me, why don't you do this or think something around this area? But when I have the most fun, of course, is when, what do I want to see? What do I want to listen? What do I want to watch myself? Because, I don't know, if I am interested in something, that means that possibly there are at least 3 people more in the world that are also interested in it too.
That's certainly a very much encouraging way to describe curating, right? And considering the audience, of course, is something which in media communication and broadcasting is something which is very much more often a consideration than maybe many.
That is something that I find when working in more artistic, independent context, that the audience is there, but it's not the most important thing. Like the most important thing is the artist and the work that the artist is going to do, or the curator and his or her vision for the exhibition or for whatever he or she is doing. And they expect the audience to attend, they expect the audience to be interested, but this is always an afterthought. It doesn't come first. I don't think also that if the audience comes first is the best, but I think that the media environment should be more sensitive to the topics and the characters and the people that they that participate in, I don't know, in TV shows and radio programs, podcasts, whatever. And I think that the more artistic world should think more about the audience that ultimately will be the receptors of whatever the artists are doing. So it's also like a very strange place to navigate. I've always been in this place, like I'm too underground, I'm too commercial for the underground people, and I'm too underground for the mainstream guys. So yeah.
But that's the sort of hybridity that I think you can fit in very well, and I think it's very valuable for us, especially when a lot of our cultural production is mediated and does not include the present audience with us that we may have, as you said, the magic moments with in presence.
Yeah.
That you do think about who are the audience and who might be listening, and to try to include that perspective more in our cultural production. And I think radio is a very good example of that, because there is a consideration of who's the listening audience here.
Yeah.
And of course, there's the obvious part that well, there is something absent, the people who are listening, obviously. And so that is a consideration much further up in the thoughts when making media and making work for especially if we think about it in a festival sense. It's would be further up the chain of consideration, let's say, right? And I think that's very valuable for us to think about these days when we have to presume at the moment, at least this year, but very likely into next year, because already we make our funding applications and our plans and imagination for next year.
Yeah.
You, myself, my colleagues in Pixelake, others who are involved in listening here, we're already thinking, what are we going to do next year, and how are we going to do it? So whether next year's conditions are different or not, we have to start to make the plan now.
Yeah.
There's a few things that I when I was listening to your talk again the second time now, I made some sort of little mind map for myself. And one of the magic spot that you mentioned, the magic moment of hybridity, the mix of the virtual and the physical aspects of being together in festivals, this sort of hybrid place in between, you spoke mostly about in a spatial sense, right? As far as I understand, like about presence, about being remote. And of course, this is the thing that we can think about first, right? That we can't be in the same physical space so easily, or we have to be at a distance removed somehow. And I think about our event even now. At this moment, we are streaming here. Okay, in my mobile, we're talking interfaces now, right? In the mobile phone that I am engaging with you, I can see three persons: yourself, Antònia, Steve, Matthias, myself. There is someone else there. I know that, at least one other person, but I cannot see them. I would have to start to move my screen.
Sasha is there, and the other person is me.
Thank you. So like anyway, already I'm restricted by a frame, right? And so my attention is to you in front of me that I can see. We have been streaming at the same time live, thanks to the work of Steve Maher, using OBS and Restream. We can distribute to our social media platforms, and we have about 6 or 7 going on in parallel. Simulcast, it's called, right? Again, I think maybe one person here, 2 there, 3 there. I don't know exactly, right? I'm just guessing now. But it means that it's difficult to engage those ones at the same time.
Yeah, actually, I think that simulcast, I think that it's a good idea in theory, and it's a really bad idea in practice. That doesn't mean that for certain people or for certain projects, it works. And that is okay. I think that most projects, especially if you have been around for a while, there is one social media platform that works better than the others. That always happens. Like, there are projects that for whatever reasons communicate best on Twitter, others on Facebook, others on Instagram. And I think that the best thing is to bet for the platform where the people are the most engaged, because you're going to get the better results. But also, there is something in my heart that when I think about streaming or putting content in this kind of platforms, is like giving away a big part of your work to a company that basically extracts data and takes profit and advantage of whatever you do. It looks a little bit like a give and take, like, okay, I can use this platform so I can reach my audience, but at the same time, things are not very, very clear. And especially during these days of the months or the weeks of quarantine back in spring, that there were many communities here in Barcelona, especially the ones around the Barcelona Community Radio Network, that activated lots of projects precisely to make artists aware of what they are giving out to these companies, and that maybe it was time to set up certain community tools that we could use in order to own our own work and the results of our own work. So it's true that these platforms like Zoom works like a charm, but you have like the Jitsi alternative that also works. Maybe not like a charm like Zoom, but I think that if more people use it, more efforts will be invested. So one day it works as good as this platform, and at the very same time, you can have it just installed on your server, so you are the owner of the thing.
Yeah.
And I have thought about a lot, yes, of ownership of what you do. It's intellectual property of what you do. It's this conversation, maybe it's a concert, and I think that we should be more aware of that. And festivals, especially now, moving to these platforms to be the stage of their performances, should be even more aware of that, even though I'm aware that it's difficult to build an audience and to direct an audience to a platform that people don't know, but there are always strategies. And the other thing that I think that I wanted to tell, like in my talk, and that I didn't do it in the most practical way, it was that the venue is very important. Like the content for the festival, if you have the urge to make a festival, like you have the desire to make it, you really want to do it, you already know what kind of content you want to put in your festival. You know what your festival is going to be about, at least in an abstract way. But where are you going to make your festival? And here I think the venue is queen. It doesn't matter if it's a big venue for a festival like Sonar, where the venue is really important, the physical one. And it's something it's a place that's very, very big, that serves many, many purposes, and it gets transformed for the festival. So it creates the specific and very special atmosphere for this festival. So when people see pictures around on the internet, on the media, they know that this was Sonar and not something else. So I think that the venue makes every festival unique in a way, and how you dress up and you decorate this venue. And if you don't have the chance to do that, it's something that when I was talking about Euphonic, I was trying to think is that you can get inspired by a specific venue where you don't have to do much or you don't have to do anything, so it's interesting. And I think that I think that it's inspiring, perhaps, for the artists that you ask them to play or make an installation there. Like, you are going to do something here, come up with something that's specific for this place. But also, I think for the audience, it's part of the magic to go to that place and be present there and enjoy. And the third part, and that's why I was a bit scared to share you this experience that I was telling you, of this Zoom festival, because it's something that was very private. I think that the internet, whatever platform you want to use, it's also a venue. And if you start to think about the internet or Zoom or Facebook or Jitsi or whatever as the venue, you also change like your mind around how you are going to make this festival. And I would like to be able to share with you one of those programs or shows or events that Alba did back in quarantine, because what it was generated, it was a space that was virtual, that contained everything: the audience, the artists, and I don't know. It's one of the things that I have found the most interesting during all these months. that I've seen like many festivals trying hybrid formats and making really professional, very well done things, but they didn't have the magic component that I expected. While this experience that was made at home because everybody was in their homes and was mixed live, and it was also very improvised, and it had the participation of the audience, it was so magical, and it was a different experience. That it wasn't, I'm going to watch a show on the internet, and it wasn't, I'm going to see a concert to see and meet my friends and see what they are up to. It was a complete different experience that involved very much presence. I don't know if physical or virtual, but the people who were there, they were there. And there was interaction, and it felt real, and it felt authentic, and that ultimately I think is what you want to get, and that's why people goes to festivals to get that experience. So you need to find the space that it's not, I'm going to stream a concert or I'm going to make a concert at the venue. If you think about the internet as a venue, your mind makes something that's like poof, and everything changes.
Yeah, Antonia, I totally agree, and I really appreciate your emphasis or focus on venue as being the important thing. I think if I speak a little bit about Pixelate's experience, especially in the last 10 years, one thing that makes it maybe different from some other festivals is we've kept changing the venue and the formats that we present in the venues. Now a lot over the last 10 years, and we have, as some people know, made festivals on islands. We have taken people to islands. We have rowed people to islands. We put them all on ferries. We have had, especially 2015, a very decentralized festival where private spaces were used as venues, including apartments, as well as bigger spaces. The festival has moved around many different cultural spaces. There was a tram year. Thank you, Steve. So I mean, in some ways, you could argue that the second life of Pixelate after our many years in Chiasma Theatre and Museum of Contemporary Art space, which was fixed, and so the types of things that could happen were over the years becoming similar. The shift to different venue every festival.
That's natural because you learn what works in a space, right?
Well, yeah, actually, we had to remake things all over again every time. And it was much easier to burn people out, and the producing work was heavy, etc. Right? You don't gain from the experience of last year the same following. It does mean that you gain a very broad repertoire. And so I appreciate the let's say the backup support to say venue is really important. And we should be careful to keep that.
Yeah.
The other thing is, and this is something maybe Steve can comment and Sasha can comment because they have been involved in the last festival in 2019. There were events which had very particular audiences, even an audience of one. And this created an experience that no one else or a very limited number of people shared. And this gives variety, which I think is very important. And maybe Steve or Sasha wants to say something just to expand the conversation a little bit.
Yeah, you're talking about the last thing. The audience of one was Brigitte Kovacs's. What was the name of the project? Essentially, they were following the sun from central Helsinki to East Helsinki, and they were following the metro line. And each of the days of the performance, there was one participant. But the thing about that is there ended up being more than one participant in the last day, but Brigitte kind of allowed for it. It was just a lot of people tagged along as they were going through this allotments. But we made a festival, that addressed community building, and that kind of allowed for like a multi-voice interpretation of what community is, where communities could be found, and the full title of the festival was Breaking the Fifth Wall. So we saw the fifth wall as this networked like boundary of media which is what we're participating in right now. So the festival was about trying to deconstruct that a little bit, a smidge. But Sasha maybe can say something as well.
Yeah, I think for that particular project, it was also a thing that people, we were worried of getting this one participant that will actually be engaged with the artist, like, because people even in Finland can be very shy. So you need to pinpoint the particular person that you kind of want to choose for this project. But then when people heard about the project, they kind of sneaked into it, because it was outside, and the other participants told about, which is the location of it, and told to other people. And then it was just like a group of people there, even if it was supposed to be just one, and quite more secretive. And there was just like an email chain between the artist and the other participant. It was not really, I don't think it was even really clearly put in the schedule where it is and how it's going to be. Like, there was no pinpoint. It was the area, but you could, like, wander around.
You could passively witness it.
Yeah. So basically people, because the project also engaged in finding this artist, so the other participant needed to find the artist where it is. So, a lot of people joined because it was kind of hide and seek. It was not a hide and seek. It was trying to, the aim was not to hide, but to actually be seen.
That sounds like a very interesting experience, like very, very fun.
I think also as you know, Pixelake Festival has never been huge, and we never get big audiences more than a couple of hundred, even in our biggest years. And, of course, it's all relative to the size of the city and the size of the country and things like this.
And the project is being presented.
And also that
there are things that you can only do that you can only do them in a big festival, and there are things that you can only do in a very tiny festival. So the best thing is to take advantage of that kind of freedom and not wanting to do the other way around, which would be a huge mistake. And I see that many festivals that start try to make things like the big festivals, and they are completely wrong. Is maybe one day you will be big, but now you have to work within your own means and using your imagination and trying to find creative ways to make your festival and make it unique.
Absolutely, and like there are times and places for the bigger and the smaller, right?
Definitely.
To make larger number of unknown connections in large festivals such as the Transmediale or Ars Electronica or Sonar Festival. These are very big, and so the chances of meeting people that you might never know may increase. But then also the intimacies that you might have from a smaller festival where some similar people come every time is also an important factor. And I like to think we are more on the latter. And the intimacies
that comes from the spirit of the picnic, like it's from that ethos.
Exactly. And but I want to go back to something you said, Antònia, about the platforms that we use, and when we first met.
I have something to say on that too.
I remember, what was it, Horizon or Horizonto? I can't remember.
Horizon TV.
Yeah, Horizon TV. So this was streamed also with support from the GIS network, right?
Yeah.
Like GIS is Global Independent Streaming Support. And this network is open source, free streaming tools for free media, very much connected to the FLOSS context of free Libre open source software, and has also, I believe it's still ongoing. I'm looking at its website now.
Yeah, it still exists. I'm not sure if it works or not, but it does exist, yes.
But it's been also very important in transcontinental networks, and of course between the Spanish-speaking worlds of Iberian Peninsula and then Latin South
America.
And this is where it's had its strength and value right? Now that, and I recognize that as being really important for many of our scenes, right? And some of the ones that Pixelate's been involved with over the years. But unfortunately, it seems to be also a smaller one, considering the dominance of corporate social media and the related streaming tools that go with them. Maybe you can speak about how do we find ways to balance this back in a more balanced way, so that organizations like ours, which support open source culture, arguably, can also support the platforms and tools.
I can tell you about the experience that we have right now with the Barcelona Community Radio Network. We built infrastructure for community radio, so that the radio stations and people who are part of the network, they can, I don't know, if they want an MP3 player to embed on their blog or the website, they don't have to use a proprietary one or a free software one that's ugly and it looks the same. They can have the one of the XRCV. Also, we soon will be able to provide live streaming for the radios, and also what we provide is it's like a platform, like an interface, so the radios can have their space and they can upload their shows, and they can tell this is a radio. It doesn't matter if they can transmit also in FM. It's okay if they upload their shows on, I don't know, on SoundCloud or on Spotify. We don't care. They can do it. I think that the way to go is to use open free software tools and then promote whatever you do on the other platforms and try to bring more people as possible. For instance, for the Barcelona Community Radio Network, the social platform that works best for us to promote things, even though we don't have many followers yet, is Twitter. Like, the audience that's there is very engaged. They share the shows, they share the events, and if it works, we will keep on using it. Like, we've had conversations about using federated networks like Mastodon, for instance, or Pleroma, or that kind of platforms. But Twitter works. We can promote our stuff there. The free open source tools tend to be very closed in terms of the people who support them. Like, it's normally an environment of people who already know. They are already aware. You don't have to convince them. Like, possibly they use a Linux distribution on their laptop, and I don't know. They have this, like, very much wired in their brains and in their lifestyles and everything. But there is like a massive amount of people out there that might be using free open source tools, and they don't realize. They just realize that I've downloaded this for free from the internet and it works great. Yeah. And our job is to educate or to inform, in a way, to these people who are not aware of the value of these tools, because their main value is not that they are free, as in free beer. Their value is that they are free, as in freedom. So this is what we try to do in the radio community. But we know that to engage more people and to spread the word, we have to look for people at the places where they engage and where they are. And I don't know, it would be
sometimes that's social media. Sometimes.
Yeah, Twitter, or we also have like an Instagram account. Like, I think that you have to grab the people where, I don't know.
So there is some value in simulcasting.
Yeah, no, I'm sure. Yes, there is, but my experience also tells me that things get a little bit diluted.
True.
That sometimes, yeah.
I just think
sometimes it's best just to promote heavily one thing and make everybody go there.
Yeah, totally. I like it though. I think it's a disruptive thing. I think most of these platforms don't want you to be crossing between. Well, maybe Instagram and Facebook want you to be crossing between their use, of course. But like for instance, what we're doing now, we're using OBS, and that's open source. And we're using Restream.io. I mean, they're not open source, but it's an intermediary for us to be able to hack into all of these social media platforms. And today I just figured out how to get us onto Instagram while on everything else live. So I think there's like a little bit of a opportunity there, but there's an ecology between these things. With OBS, it's open source, Restream is private, and then the social media platforms, they're a necessary evil, sometimes.
Yes, but I think that it's okay to use them just to I don't know, wake up people's minds and bring them to the other side.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You have to meet people where they are.
Yes, exactly. And I also think that people are every day like more conscious about these platforms.
Oh yeah.
And
yeah.
I think that this is a good thing.
I think it's one of the main things that you see in the news these days. It's questions about personal autonomy and social media and what data you're providing. These are regular stories, and they're things that people want to know about.
Yeah, and it's something that I try to explain a bit on the talk. Is this project that I'm starting to work on also right now? It will be streamed during November and December, I think. Mm-hmm. It's 5 shows, and the main goal of these shows is to promote free open source tools for cultural creation, basically. And through each of the programs, like there will be like 3 things. One is a conversation between 2 people that work in different areas, for instance, infrastructure for culture, or creative tools for producing music or visuals or things. There is another one on economy and models for social economy and funding. And what else? I don't even remember. There's one about formats. And so there is a conversation, and then there is a show, and then there is a how-to. So the objective of this project is to promote that kind of ideas and tools towards people who don't know. Because the people who are in the activist environment, they are all convinced. So let's try to convince the people who are not in this environment so that they can make better things. I don't know, if one artist these days is using YouTube for presenting their music to the audience, maybe we can suggest them, why don't you try Jitsi? Because at least in Barcelona, there are several servers that you can use for it. And also, if you have maybe, I don't know, an audience of 50 people, you will have the 50 people closer on Jitsi than on YouTube, for instance. Or telling people, if you make a podcast instead of using Spotify, why don't you use the XRCB platform? So because the platform is owned by the community, the community makes the tools for the community, so the community uses them. So it's the aim is to promote that kind of things. And I would be happy to share with you when we have already at least a couple of shows made and to see how the experience is. It's not in English, but I don't know.
Anyway, it sounds fantastic, Antònia. And I really appreciate giving those examples of how to be a distributor and also creating spaces for artists and producers, which also localizes. and finds the support for those systems locally. This is of course a fantastic development that might help us find ways to manage our own devices, our own serving capacity.
Actually, there is one of the shows is going to be a cool one, because it's a show where people from their homes will be able to choose the angle of the camera that they want. So in a way, the audience will be also the creator. Like there will be no director telling you how you are going to see and experience this concert. So you can choose from different views and making a bit your own. So I'm excited about this perspective. Yes.
Hey, to return to the magic spot that you spoke about, I mean, we've spoken about the spatial sides of things, and I suppose the simulcast also gives an idea of the temporal sweet spot, right? With Steve and Pixelic Office, we have joked a little bit like stream bombing, that all of a sudden, as we are doing now, boom, and then you're casting out in all directions the web, right? Of Pixelic in this case today.
This is the nuclear option.
Yeah, it gets them all at once almost, right? And this is maybe a magic spot of temporality when we're making hybrid events. But I also just recognize, because I have in one eye, I can see there's a Facebook event which has started 20 minutes ago, not an hour and 20 minutes ago. So we have a little bit of asynchronity in this event, which I guess is just a time zone error because of summertime. But it supposedly started at 7, right? And of course we started at 6 Helsinki time. But so it means, but anyway, we are making a record of this event. And not everyone can turn up live. And people will go, oh, I know that event happened, but I'm going to catch it later because I know it's recorded.
Yeah.
And
how?
That means it doesn't matter whether you're live temporally synchronous or asynchronous, because the content that we deliver, in this case, this event, this stream, our chat, can be watched later. It might be tomorrow, it might be next week, it could be next year. It doesn't matter, really. It's when you can actually sit down and go, right, I've got an hour, I'm going to do it.
I think that this has its advantages. Like, I cannot be there, I'll catch it up later, but chances are that you forget completely about it.
That's right. So the break in time,
forgotten, I think. And also the magic when you go to a concert or a festival is to be there, present in the moment. And I think that you can be there, present in the moment in something that happens online, that happens connected. So also this experience that I was telling you about that happened on Zoom, that was live. And so, yes, it is recorded, but it's not available. Or either you were there or you weren't. And that's also part of the magic. Also, I don't know, festivals and concerts that we've seen in the past, we have them as a memory that we tend to, I don't know the word, I don't know if it's mythify or mystify, you know. And if we can always come back to this recording, I don't know. I think that we miss our memory as it is, as being there, as maybe being in the front row or at the other side, and who we met and things like that. I think also that when you recall these events, because you have pictures, they are your own pictures. Not let's say the pictures that the festival make for media or for the galleries on the website.
Sure.
These pictures capture the artist, capture the ambience, but they don't capture your experience or your friend's experience or the experience that you had with your friends. These pictures, you make them, your friends make them, and you share it, I don't know, on social media or wherever. And I think that also like makes a big difference. And things that can be replayed again, I think it's something that's more useful maybe for lectures and panels and things like that. because there are people who share a specific knowledge that can be useful for someone at some point. And I think that this, yes, has value. But for a concert, a show, or some kind of another artistic experience, I think that you have to be there. Unless if it happens live.
Yeah, I mean, certainly it's your job and my job and other people's jobs to speak about the festivity and the occasion that you cannot that happens only if you're there, and that can mean now spatially and temporally. And I very much sympathize with your comment about making your own memories in the process that become your own funded experience, right? Which is the idea that we are all made up of a bank of experiences, and that's what gives us our sense of self, our sense of community, what we think is valuable.
And that's also what makes festivals what they are, I think. Sonar has been around for 27 years. And there is a part of the audience that's extremely faithful to the festival. They started to go there at the beginning. I include myself. And these people have built their memories in the festival. And these people telling stories to other people, that's what made the festival big in the first place. Because in the 90s, the internet was not as powerful as now. For a Spanish festival to become international, that was certainly an anomaly. Like we didn't have international media here to spread the word. So basically what spread the word the first years, where the festival scaled up very, very fast, it was people who went there, who had certain experiences and told everybody. So these stories, the stories that people tell their friends and their friends and friends, blah, 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 I think that they are not trivial. It doesn't matter if they tell them in person or if they tell them on their social media or their social channels. But this kind of stories is what make people want to go there next year. And if you can promote that this kind of stories happen, I think that it is good.
That's really cool.
Yeah, and of course you're like we know, and some of the people who were involved in roles like yours at the moment have been also the advocates of open source and international oriented networks, right? And that they have been in the background of that type of exchange. And also that festivals like Sonar, which grew to such a big international scale, helped also transform the image of certain cities, the economy of the city, the imagination that other people can do things, and they move there for that reason. And so very large social economical trends come out of that type of accumulated funded experience, right? The bank, the memories that we are willing to make every year.
Yeah, definitely.
Think about Woodstock. Think about the culture that exists around that whole idea.
Yes.
Proto.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I think at the moment, I from my notes, at least from the presentation, we have talked about a sort of hybridity, which you have said in other ways, like liquid and liquidity, and of course, there is even a sense of a sort of liquid society and culture and economics, and all these things are interrelated. And Sigmund Bauman, for example, has written books on the concept of liquidity, right? But we are talking about this space between, like, or let's say the event, the now moment, in between spaces and times and the places that get made because of those gatherings, right? You said in your talk also that to make festivals, you should think about it and then make it with love, right? And you speak about this idea of passion, that these are the things that you really care about, and it's important. I guess, beyond all these things like economics and society and culture, to keep working. I suppose our challenges now are really to work with the loops that go and fold around into each other all the time, right? That the things that have happened before, you can pull them back and reenact them, like an annual festival. The projections that we make into the future are, of course, rooted in your desires now, what you hope will happen and what you can try to make. And that this is all a mix together. I wonder if you have anything else you want to say for us at this moment. Of course, what you hope to do that you haven't mentioned, or I don't know what else to give you a hook to swing on now. So
I don't know. There was something in my mind, but I've just forgotten, and I'm not sure what it was about. I'm not sure if it was about the hybridity or whatever. Just forgotten.
Okay. I give a chance then for anyone else.
Yeah, it was about what you were telling me, and it's about doing it with love. And this is something that I think it's important, because when you make things that ultimately get successful at some point, and successful doesn't mean to have 100,000 people or make millions and millions of euros with your event. Maybe it means that you can make your event for 25 years straight and you have a very faithful audience, and in the way you gather new members and the audience renovates with younger people, and maybe the scale is smaller but it's sustainable. I think that to achieve that, I think that you have to be authentic. And you have to take a lot into consideration the audience, as I was saying, thinking about what they might like, what experience they will have, what they might enjoy the most, what stories I can tell them, because otherwise it's something that I don't like at all. There are these, I would say, prefabricated festivals that are made, like a business model. Like there are some investors that say, okay, we are going to make, I don't think that nobody is doing this now, but certainly a couple of years back, yes, that they think, okay, I'm an investor, I want to make a business that will bring me a lot of money, so I will make a festival. And they make some investment, they pick the venue they want, the artists, like the more the better, the more famous the better, they are paying them whatever they ask for or even more than they ask for, and they spend like a huge amount of money in promoting to create an experience that is set up in a space, not respecting at all this territory and the cultural fabric of this specific space, or the people who live there, or the artists that are there. And then when the festival is over, they leave. And that's it. And I think that doesn't do any favor to any festival, big or small. I would recommend you, if you haven't seen it, there is a documentary about one festival that was done like this by, maybe you've seen it, by an investor it was called Fire Festival, which was basically a huge catastrophe.
Yeah.
But there are many festivals that are done like this.
There's two documentaries, actually.
Yes. Some of them, they even, work, and it's okay, good for them. But many of these festivals happen, I don't know, in very particular places, like, I don't know, in exotic islands, or things in places in the middle of the mountains, or in spaces that are very idyllic, and the organization doesn't put any kind of thought or care into what's the environment in this area. How's the people? Are there any music, any culture that they might integrate in the festival, or even make something that might be interesting for the local people? I think that, I don't know, it's not a model that I think it's right, because I don't think it contributes to culture at all.
Yeah, I think I think there's a lot of these cases are for like big music festivals that are ongoing, and they kind of are about the promotion of the beer seller rather than the promotion of the musicians. I have been to some because of the artists that were present, but being in those kind of music festivals is usually really it's you're going because it's cheap somehow. It's cheaper than to go to 10 or 20 different concerts, and then you're also maybe young at that point and you cannot afford it, and it feels fun to go, but then the actual music experience of the concert experience, it's like really like the worst that you can have.
Well, the thing is that most of those festivals, they don't last more than a year, 2, 3 to 5 years, and they disappear at some point because they are incapable to build anything interesting. So
the longest lasting festivals in Ireland, they're all grassroots organized, like that I know of, in music festivals.
Well, here in Venice, I think that the Heineken Jamming Festival was quite popular for quite a while, but because the way they advertise, it was always for somebody between 18 and let's say 25. So they didn't really their audience was more or less the same all the time, because when you grew out of that, you would not go there. But, there was 2 other generations after you that would go. So it didn't really matter. It was just also this, they didn't understand how to also choose the audience and choose the artists. So that year that I went, the headliners were Queens of the Stone Age, Iggy Pop, and Sex Pistols. But
lineup.
Yes, well, that was the major, and then there was also some other more aimed at emo teenagers, but those concerts did not really it was very varied audience, but then you also had a VIP pit, the first row was VIP, but it was an Iggy Pop concert, so a mosh pit broke out, and also the people invigilating were 18 or 19, so we just kind of took them and said we will go to the mosh pit now. I'm sorry. I see that you have a gun, but I really don't. You should just move and let the people enjoy the concert as it's supposed to be enjoyed in a mosh pit.
That's a nice image. We're quite far from that, aren't we?
Yeah.
But the reference to the teenager is something which caught my imagination, because we're talking about, in the case of Sonar Festival, 25 years. In the case of Pixelake Festival, coming up to the 20th year.
Wow.
These are adult festivals, right? Not teenagers anymore.
Yes,
definitely. And the adult in us, the imaginary adult in us, who make festivals,
inner adults,
are the ones who start to think about how are we going to reproduce, right? And the make it with love statement comes back in mind. We're talking about the social reproduction of associational work and collaborative work and cooperative work and work that you make together, right? And the DIY scene that has been referenced with the punk scene, that Sex Pistols came into mind there, Iggy Pop comes into mind, has moved on in the network cultural world of doing it with others, right? And doing it together is another term. And I was reminded earlier today that Pixelake Network, our European partners, about 8 to 6 years ago, we had a project called Open Sourcing Festivals, and it was funded by EU Grundvig Mobility Fund, so we could move and swap expertise around our partners, our nodes, in a network. And we helped one of our partners, which became a new member of the network, Access Space in Sheffield in England, to make their first digital arts festival, right? And so the project of us swapping workshops and curatorial experience and people and things like that led towards one of the new nodes making their first festival. And they decided to call it Do It Anyways.
Right? That's a good name. Yeah.
Because for them at that point, it was a very challenging funding situation in England. It was almost like a make or break moment, right? And to be honest, in the Pixelate network at that time, all the associations had troubles in various different ways. And so Do It Anyways was a logical extension to the Do It Together, do it with others, and of course well beyond the do it yourself. Regardless, you're going to do it, right?
Yeah, do it anyways.
And that was a really interesting point in the scene, because it was like, well, we're going to do it out of association, we're going to do it out of passion because you think it's the right thing to do, and arguably you could do it because out of love, that you want these things to continue. And you would like them to keep going, and the social reproduction of festivals on the very short cycles, 1 year or 2 years, and that's where we're working. That's where we're operating. It's like a hyper fast generational game. The challenge is how to keep going and how to pass it on with other people. So the next generation go, yeah, this is cool, or this is an interesting scene. I would be happy to.
Well, you have to, actually, to engage younger generations, you have to work with the younger generations. Like the best way to, yes, you need to incorporate in your team people that are younger than you and who communicate with their peers their way. That I think that this is kind of key.
Yeah, I totally agree.
And also, I think that for instance, here in Spain, it's very, very popular in music, trap and reggaeton, which is, I like it because I tend to like all kinds of things, but people from my generation hate it in a very visceral way. And they're like, these kids these days, they listen to such an awful music. And when I hear that, I can't help but thinking, you are old. Like, you are telling exactly what your dad might said when you were 15. So if you are annoyed by the music that the kids do, it's the right way to go. Or otherwise, you are going to do something that it's like classic, boring, maybe very well done, but blah. So yeah, I think that it's good to have generations making provocative things that
anything
annoy
the Rolling Stones have done the last 30 years. You know, I mean, that's for a generation of people who just want things to be the same, you know?
Yeah.
Any last comments by other people in the space that we are sharing at this moment?
I have a really cheeky question, like the kind of question that's either very annoying to answer or it's like a very convenient question. But
do it.
How do you define a festival?
How do I define a festival? Oh my God, that's a very difficult
I know.
question. Wow. But I think
a job interview now or something.
No, but I think that I should have a response for that. Like, how do I define a festival? Possibly it's going to be simplistic, but I think that a festival is an experience that gathers people around something they love. Might it be music, dance, a film, a theater, painting, new media arts, whatever. I think that's a festival. It's a celebration.
Yeah, I concur.
Actually, when I had, she died a few years ago. I had my oldest aunt. She was 95. And of course, she didn't understand what I did for a living. And one day she asked me, what is this sonar thing that you work at? And I told her that it was the holidays. It's like, the local holiday where there are all the folkloric dances and things, but from the century. And she was okay with that. Like, it's the time of year that there's a party, a holiday, there are music and dance, and you meet your friends, and there are your friends from other countries and other cities that come exactly as for the local holiday. So she was okay with that. And I think that that's what a festival is.
That's lovely.
I think that's a brilliant time to end. And I thank you so much, Antònia,
Thanks to you.
for joining us from Barcelona.
Thank you very much for letting me participate, and also to know what Pixelake is doing and what it's all about. Yes.
Well, I like to think it's the start of a conversation that will continue on into next year.
And hopefully in Helsinki.
And hopefully in Helsinki, indeed.
Yeah.
I thank you, all those who have joined us also for this occasion, in presence, synchronously, asynchronously, or otherwise.
Yeah.
And
all these souls lost in the simulcast.
I've been following the analytics, and it's good. Yeah.
We will get together sometime. Thanks so much. I wish you all good evening.
Good evening too. It was a pleasure.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
And goodbye to the streaming.